Alright, so this section is 1.6.2. This section is called parallel lines cut by transversals. So I love these. They are really easy and should be very visual and intuitive. But basically you're going to be given any two parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that will not touch each other. And they're going to be cut by a third line. We're going to call this third line the transversal. Okay? And what this does is it creates all these little pockets. So we have this small angle here, this bigger angle. This big angle here, this small one here. Small, big, small, big. And what we find out is all the big angles are equal and all the small angles are equal. And these have some different names that I'll be going over while I'm doing these problems, but you really can do it in this very visual way, even if you don't remember all the various rules. Okay? So, also, big angles plus the small angles will equal 180 degrees. So that's the majority of what we need to know. So what I'll be given are pictures like we have here, where AB is parallel to CD, and we want to find all of our missing parts. The first one being W. Well, I'll be given a number, like this 25 here. This 25 degrees is my smaller angle, and what I really want to do is think about, well, what about W? Is it also small or is it big? We could also say that 25 and W are alternate interior angles, which are congruent. Okay, so you probably saw that in your reading. That means that W and 25 are the same, so I know W is 25 degrees. Okay. Next, I want to do X. Well, X is right next to my 25, which means X and 25 are supplementary. If we remember from our vocabulary, supplementary are angles that equal 180. So I would want to do 180 minus 25. 180 minus 25, which should give me, what, 155? Yes, I believe that's right. So we have 155 degrees. You can also see here that X is a much bigger angle, so just visually it makes sense that that one is 155. Why? Why, with respect to our original 25, they are consecutive interior angles, which are supplementary. Well, we don't redo this calculation. We already know that our supplementary angles are 155. Which again makes sense because Y down here is big just like X. They should be the same. So it's literally trying to find all of your different pieces. And finally Z, looking at Z visually, guess what? It's a big angle, which means it should be that 155. Another reason you know it's 155 is because it is vertical to X. So those vertical angles we've done previously, they come back into play here. So that means that Z and X should be the same size because they are vertical angles. So let's try this next one. You can also go through, and this is sometimes what I like to do with these, and literally fill it all in before even looking at what the questions ask. So I see the 40, right? Vertical to 40 is this angle. They're also both the small angles. And then I come up here, my alternate interior angle, or the other small angle, is here. And the one vertical to that is there. So I've labeled all of my smaller angles. Then I can go through and do, well, what would 180 minus 40 be? That's 140. And I could put that in for all of my bigger angles. So again, there's a lot of terminology here, you know, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and so on. But you can do it very visually, which is one of the things I love about geometry. Guess what? I've already filled in all my answers, so now I just got to match. The x, I was at 140. That makes sense because x and 40 are supplementary. So that's a 140. Y and the 40, well, they were alternate interior angles, so of course they're congruent to each other. And Z was a vertical to Y, thus it was congruent at 40 degrees. They're equal to each other. So there's a lot of ways to do these. You can use the definitions, or you can just use big and small. This one is a little closer together, but you can still piece it together. The vertical angle here to this, what is it, is 78, would be up here, okay? And then another thing you can think about is if I could move and like slide up that 78, where would it land? It would land on top of X. And that would be that corresponding angle, which you probably saw in your X. So corresponding angles are angles that are in the same place. Okay, they have that, both of these I would describe as bottom right if I were to break this into two separate lines. So they're in that same placement. And then vertical to X, or alternate exterior angle to D here, would be that 78. Okay? And then I can go through and do my 180 minus 78, 102. That should be all of my bigger spots. 102, 102. So it should be 4 and 4. If you have 578, you've done something wrong. So let's think about this. 78 and my x, they are equal. They're both 78 because they are corresponding angles. They're in the same place is what I mean there. Y is also 78 because it is an alternate exterior angle to that original 78. That means they're both on the outside and opposite sides. Again, you probably saw them in your reading. And Z would be supplementary, which means it's 102 degrees. So literally, you have these like little compasses. You have two measurements, and you fill them in accordingly. Any questions, we'll go over this in class.